is what did you take away from the first panel today, from the speakers, the view from the top?
I think that the three CEOs who joined us today provided a compelling perspective of the challenges that they're facing. It struck me that the common theme amongst their panel was really this notion that they are truly in the business of optimization, and that their ongoing challenge, their ongoing struggle, if you like, is that they really wrestle with the question of how do we achieve some form of equilibrium as we optimize. They made the point that historically, and I think Mr. Rogers was perhaps the most vocal in this, he said, recall that in the 20th century, the mission was to achieve universal electrification and to do so with a high degree of reliability at a reasonable cost. As he looks forward towards the 21st century, he sees the mission changing. He sees the mission being one of continuing to provide strong, reliable service, but doing so in a way that can enhance the environment and really play a central role in advancing our economy. An important point was also made that there is a direct correlation between the economic prosperity of a nation and its ability to have clean, reliable, and plentiful energy. And clearly the electric industry plays a very significant role in that. As we look towards the utility of the future then, we have to ensure that we don't lose sight of that mission that we have in ensuring the prosperity for our nation, for our children and our children's children, putting the right resources in place. Recalling that historically we've made decisions that have been very long-lived. Existing plants today in some cases have been around 20, 30, 40 years and may still be having life extensions that will modernize and improve their capacity. So as we make decisions today, we have to recall that this is not, although we keep referring to the Apple model and we keep talking about the innovation associated with, for example, the iPhone or the Android operating system or what have you, we have to recall that the assets we're fundamentally talking about here are long-lived assets. The decisions we're making to optimize things today will have repercussions well into the next generation. And that was really the one big takeaway from this morning, beyond the pleasant kind of dialogue between the CEOs and the fun ribbing that they engaged in.
Okay. And what would have been kind of the themes that you've seen running through the event so far?
Well, I think, and perhaps because of the way in which KEMA really structured this event, we structured it as a discussion about equilibrium. And so I think that there's a sense of the participants as they joined us that equilibrium is an appropriate kind of point to be talking about. And so many of our participants so far today have brought up this concept of managing the equilibrium and trying to reach some new form of equilibrium, recognizing that we're not quite there yet. Some of the common themes have been the challenges of integrating high-cost assets, for example, wind and solar, into a service where the typical consumer is interested in low cost. Other themes have been the lack of policy clarity, or in some cases, whether that be regulatory clarity, legislative clarity, around what the future will be. Again, if we recognize the fact that these are long-lived assets, that we're making decisions today for things that will have 20, 30, 40-year lives, absent that regulatory clarity that allows senior executives to know with some degree of certainty that they are able to gain a return on their investment, that they're able to satisfy the needs of their shareholders, as well as their customers, as well as their regulators, as well as their political establishment. Absent those kinds of some degree of certainty in that space, decisions are prolonged, choices are made by default because we have no real alternative option. We don't have enough time to investigate the alternatives. One of the common themes around that, for example, was carbon. and the notion of whether in the United States we were going to have a certain regulatory policy around carbon capture, carbon management. I think one of the other themes that a number of folks spoke about today was also the kind of realization that we're in a business where we've historically